on the bottom.
Hello and welcome to the Chasing Tails Outdoors podcast. I'm here with David Epley Jr. with Twisted Oak Guide Service, and today we're going to talk about the Arizona fall draw. We're going to talk about sheep and break down southern Arizona deer, specifically Coues deer. So out here we're fishing today to add a little bit of entertainment to it. So David, what units do you focus on specifically?
Well, I try to focus on the units that have good numbers of Coues deer. There's several units that don't have the numbers, but they have better quality. But I like to focus on the 36s, the 34s, and the 35s. So majority of southern Arizona. I mean, you get into 31, 32, and 33. And you kind of get into big country where you don't have quite as many deer, but you get into the better deer. And you get into like 30A and 30B, you get a lot of private property, stuff like that. To me, 34s, 35s, and the 36s, they tend to have more, you know, area that you can hunt easier, less private property, and the deer numbers are phenomenal in those units as Coues deer. So I try to focus on the 34s, 35s, and 36s.
So in those units specifically, how do they stack up trophy quality wise, would you say, against like a 31, 32, 33 unit?
Well, the trophy quality is still there in those units.
Is it because of tag numbers?
Absolutely.
And terrain?
To me, 100%. In those units, you have more roads than the units that have, you know, in my opinion, a little maybe less deer, but better quality. In the units that I prefer, there's more roads. So you tend to get your side-by-side hunters and your road hunters and stuff, and they push the deer all over the place, of course. And so yeah, I mean, they're still there. It's just sometimes can be a little harder to find them, but you can still get really good quality in those units. You just got to hunt a little harder for them is all.
Mm-hmm. As far as archery hunting goes for Coues deer in the southern units, which unit would you say specifically you have the highest odds of harvesting a deer with your bow, and then units you have the highest chance of killing a 100+ buck with your bow?
Well, to me, in my opinion, there's only one way. I mean, you can spot and stalk Coues deer with your bow, but you're going to get beat more than you're going to win. So I like to sit water archery hunting Coues deer. And to me, it's very important to find a good secluded water. You know, you don't want to sit those water holes right off the main road, stuff like that, where you're going to have side-by-sides driving by all the time. Those aren't the water holes that you really want to focus on. You want to focus on finding a secluded water source in a cut canyon somewhere that you can sit sun up to sundown. I mean, they're brutal days, but if you want to shoot a big 100+ inch Coues deer with your bow, you got to put the work in and sit sun up to sundown, in my opinion. But I mean, majority of your units have them springs in there, you know, and they can be kind of tough to find, especially in these southern units where, you know, you start getting into the mountainous type country, you know, up in that 5,000+ foot of elevation. You find more natural springs in those units than the desert, but the desert still has them. You just got to find them, and it just takes boots on the ground and spending a lot of time in the unit. But to me, sitting water is your best bet to kill that big 100+ inch buck.
So the 34s, let's start with the 34s.
Yeah.
34A, you can argue that the east side and the west side are two completely different units.
100%.
Divided by the not Santa Margarita, what is that? The Santa Rita range. Yeah. The east side obviously gets more pressure because it's that more typical Coues deer habitat, oak, pretty rolling hills. The other side's more deserty, Ocotillo.
Yep.
So would you say that the east side would probably produce a higher number of deer than the west side because they have more cover and things like that?
That would be a hard one to argue with. I mean, to me, when you get into that a little bit higher elevation, you get into them junipers, you get into thicker country. So I believe there's more deer than you can see. Because you will glass, you know, you can sit on a hill and glass the same country all day long. Say one day you see 15, the next you might see 30 or, 40 or whatever. I believe that in the thicker country, there's probably more deer than you realize because you can't see them all because it's thicker. You got thick bottoms that a lot of deer hide in. They don't come out. And a lot of your mature bucks are smarter. So they, a lot of big mature bucks are very known for being very nocturnal. They don't move a lot in the daylight hours, and when they do, it's very little. So to me, it wouldn't surprise me if, say, the east side of the Santa Ritas have a higher deer population than the west side. But I feel like if you go to the west side, you're going to see more deer than you'll see on the east side because you got your, Ocotillo, mesquite type country that's open, and you can see a lot better. But to me, if you're trying to hunt a big buck, I would hunt the east side of the Santa Ritas and just pick that juniper country apart. Never pull your face out of them glass and just hunt it really hard. And one day, it might, say you got a 7-day hunt, you might not find that big buck till day 7. So you just got to really hunt that thick juniper country really hard in order to find that big buck. Unless you get lucky like some people and driving in, he's right there on the side of the road, which it happens, but.
So 34B, that's a much more remote,
Oh man,
nasty, rugged,
yes,
mountainous. And as of this year, there's a new bear hunt in there.
yes there is.
And those bears have never been pressured. I don't know anything about bears in that unit because I've never hunted it or looked around for bears necessarily in that unit. I know there's a jaguar caught by a couple years ago, well, probably 10 years ago now, by Chasing Tails Outfitters, which we have no affiliation with. I've come to notice that the units that hold big bears, big bear populations in the desert, typically hold your biggest bucks.
Yeah.
What would you say that correlation is? Is it because bears like that nasty country that those bucks tend to live in as well?
I think you could say that them bigger bucks definitely are known for being in that big rugged country. A lot of people, you think Coues deer, you think the biggest, tallest, baddest mountain you got. That's Coues deer. But yeah, 34B is a good one. It's very remote, like you said, and obviously it's bear country, but that one you're gonna strap your backpack on and you're probably either gonna leave the truck a couple hours before the sun's up to get way back in there somewhere, and because there's not a lot of roads in that unit. So you're hiking to get to the good stuff because there's no road to take you there. But yeah, if you got a good pair of boots and you're in shape, I think 34B would be a very good one. It definitely produces good bucks. You don't see a whole lot of, say social media and stuff like that. You don't see a lot of big bucks coming out of 34B. But
it also has lower tag numbers than the rest of the units.
It does. It most certainly does. And that, to me, that's very important.
And it can hold a big sleeper at that.
Yeah. And there's nothing more that irritates people than getting to your glass and spot. And, say you got a glass and spot that you park at and you glass from the truck. There's nothing more irritating than, 6 trucks rolling up on you before the sun comes up. So 34B, you throw your backpack on, hike for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And for the most part, you'll probably be all alone because your tag numbers are so drastically lower that you won't have as many people out there. And 36B, you got upwards of 600, 650, 500 tags on one 7-day hunt. That's a lot of people. And oh man, 34B, you have a small fraction of that, and it's got to be nice.
Very good. Between 35A and B, A, you have to deal with Fort Huachuca.
Yep.
That's a unit where I know for a fact there's some absolute giants that just live and die and never see a person out there. So
100%.
Between the two, A has less tags than B.
Yep.
Would you say has a higher density?
Higher density. I feel like you're going to find more deer in 35B.
It's also a lot thinner country. It's not as thick, not as much chaparral.
Not as thick, and then
Manzanita.
You got in 35A, you got the Huachucas that are extremely thick, very big, steep country.
Jaguars,
bears. But yeah, I mean, you're probably going to find a higher number of deer in 35B, which I'm familiar with both pretty well. And I wouldn't say either one of them has an extraordinary amount of deer in them to begin with, but they have a good deer population. But there are very good bucks in both. 35B has a little bit more road accessibility to it. If you kind of like 34B, if you have a backpack and you got a good pair of boots, 35A is a great unit. You get away from the people and get into that country that hasn't seen a lot of people and a lot of pressure, and you can find some really good bucks in that stuff.
So there's a direct correlation with units that have a lower density, typically have a higher age class of deer. So you got to sacrifice seeing, 50 to 100 deer a day to maybe see 5 a day to kill that,
100 plus inch deer.
100 plus inch deer. And a lot of times you're sitting in the same country looking at the same stuff day after day after day.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you know that you got big bucks living in the country you're hunting, you want to put glue on your butt and sit down and stay. You don't want to go anywhere. They're in there. You just got to wait for them to make a mistake and show themselves and get your opportunity at them. But yeah, the 35s they're kind of similar to the east side of 34A. You got your thick oak country. I mean, 35B's got some desert country to it. But in the years past hunting it, it's very pressured. And I think it goes a long ways with the, huntability of it. I think a lot of guys shoot towards that desert country because you can see a lot better. So if you can stick it out in that higher elevation juniper country, and it can be rough. Some days you see 5 deer, some days you see 10, some days you don't see any at all. But if you can stick it out in that country, you'll dig up a big buck. I mean, it might take a couple of years of hunting, a 7-day hunt to figure them out and get a big buck killed, but scouting also plays a big part in that. If you can get out and scout ahead of time and learn the country, and once you find deer, I mean, as long as you're in an area with deer, there's liable to be a good buck in there. You just got to find them.
35AB has had a very interesting hunt that I've been on, not personally with a tag in my pocket, but that was actually the first hunt I ever was a part of when I was 5 years old. And that's a December any-antlered muzzleloader hunt. You shoot a coos deer or a mule deer.
Yep.
There's 10 tags on that hunt, and that was the only Southern Arizona hunt that was a December hunt for mule deer for a gun hunt.
Yeah.
Until this year, 37A, which is a premier deer unit with very, very low deer density, you might see a doe a day. If you're doing that, you did something.
Yeah, they're tough units.
But you could find that 180 to 200 inch buck possibly. This year they have a 15 tag hunt in that unit for December. So 35AB is no longer the only December hunt
with a gun
for mule deer in Southern Arizona. Now, I don't think that hunt's gonna stick. I think that next year we'll probably see that hunt go away and it go over to 37B, and then the following year come to 37A. I don't know if that's what's gonna happen, but I could see that happening.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, 37A and B are both really good mule deer units, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. I just got bit.
And there's some bomber coos bucks in 37A that are just not known about.
Known to be over there.
I wouldn't target coos deer personally unless you have done your scouting and you know where those bucks are living at.
Yeah, you better be patient down there.
Yeah, you might not even see a coos deer on that hunt.
Nope.
But on that late December hunt, it's an any-antler tag.
Yes,
you can kill a giant coos buck, possibly chasing does on that hunt through that flat desert. So back to 36s.
36s, they are hands down in my opinion, the highest density of deer in southern Arizona as far as Coues deer.
I'd like to see if it's higher than the Kaibab. I don't know if it is. I've heard it's higher, but that's a tough one because there's so many deer up there.
The 36s are absolutely plumb full of deer. Now there's a few things that come with that. Plumb full of deer, plumb full of tags. You got people everywhere. I mean, you look at 36C. You know, you got 3 hunts in 36C before the December hunt for Coues deer. And there's only 175 tags. But when you look at 36C on a map, because of the reservation back there, for the most part, you only got your east-facing slopes of the mountain range. And you got cuts in between here and there, but it's not really a whole lot of ground to hunt. So when you look at it, at the regs, and you're like, oh, only 175 tags, but you don't have a lot of country to hunt. So you're still stacked with a ton of people, even though you have only 175 tags. And then you jump over to, say, 36A, where you can pretty much hunt the entire unit except for a little bit of Saurita and Green Valley down there. And then you got the mine and the proving grounds. So there's a little bit of land you can hunt, but I'd say 95% of the unit you can hunt. And it's a big unit and it's plumb full of deer. But you have roads absolutely everywhere, people absolutely everywhere. You got all your tag numbers are through the roof, you know, 500, 600, 700 tags.
This year they cut some Coues deer tags and mule deer tags out of 36A, but they moved them over to 36B. I believe they cut mule deer tags in 36B as well, but they added those Coues deer tags over to the 36B.
Yeah, 36B, in my opinion, has the absolute highest density of deer in southern Arizona. That unit has more deer. Oh God, you could have 100 to 200 deer a day.
How's the age class compared to A?
Horrible. 36B, I mean, if you know the unit well, you know the nooks and crannies of it, you could find a big buck. But you gotta know the nooks and crannies of it in order to do so. Because your big bucks aren't just running around all over the place. Because the age class is so low, because you got so many tags in that unit, so many people that shoot young bucks, that the age class in that unit's hurting bad.
Now, 36C, that unit, that's a unit that's managed for quality trophy.
Yep.
However, the unit is small. It hunts small.
Yep.
You personally harvested a 115 out of that unit.
I have.
What, 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
Something like that. I think it was 2017 or 2018.
Somewhere in there, I believe. How is the age class in that unit compared to the 36A and B? Considering you have the reservation right there.
Yeah, you got the reservation. And if you know again, that's another unit. If you know the nooks and crannies of it, there's certain areas where them big bucks will come over from the res. They tend to do it closer to the rut. But you could get bucks crossing from the reservation over into state land. But you can also get good bucks crossing from state to reservation, and you got to watch them go. But the age class in 36C is probably the best out of the three. 36C's age class is probably the best. But lately the numbers, in my opinion, in 36C have probably dropped. And I mean, we just recently, a few years back, had a good fire roll through there. And being that I hunt 36C quite a bit, it burned quite a bit of country. Now you do have some private property with no access, well, with foot access only, but in order to get to the good stuff, it's a long walk. And but all that got scorched by the fire. So I think that fire plays a pretty good part in it. But yeah, I think the numbers are down in 36C in my opinion. The age class is still there. I mean, I've hunted it a lot, and the age class is still there. There's still good bucks in there. But I mean, you used to have some really, that was a good fish
busting over there.
Yeah. But I mean, you can still dig up a good buck in 36C, no doubt.
Well, let's switch gears and kind of break down the hunts. So 36A offers an archery hunt in January, archery hunt in August, an archery hunt in December.
Oh my gosh, I thought that was for me.
Get a little excited there.
Yep.
And a muzzleloader hunt
Yep.
in October. I believe there's only 50 tags. I might be wrong on that.
I believe you're right.
And then they have your standard October hunt, rifle hunt, your November hunts, and a December hunt.
Yep.
That muzzleloader hunt, is that an overlooked tag, do you think?
Yes.
Why is that?
Very overlooked tag. You essentially are hunting. Obviously, they're not. Well, some are, some aren't in velvet. But you're hunting them bucks on their summer pattern still with a gun. Yes, it's hot, very hot.
But that can work in your advantage with sitting water.
Exactly, it can really work in your advantage with sitting water.
And that eliminates the distance with the muzzleloader.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you're not a guy that wants to go out and spend a couple $1,000s on a nice long-range muzzleloader, which in my opinion is not muzzleloader hunting, but if you have your traditional 100, 150, maybe 200 yard muzzleloader, sitting water on that hunt is going to be crucial. There's always leftovers. To me, it's, I mean, I always kick myself in the butt for not getting it because I'll hunt 36A in August and I'll be in big bucks all the time. And the shitty thing, crappy thing is they're there in October. They're on the exact same pattern that they were on in August in October. So those bucks you were chasing around with your bow, you now have a gun in your hand. And that is another thing with that tag, is you could use that August archery season. Not only are you hunting them, but you could use it as a little scouting too, because, yeah, you've got the muzzleloader tag. Go out and chase them with your bow. Try to kill them with your bow. To me, an archery kill, especially coos deer, more meaningful than a gun kill. But
so as far as mule deer in southern Arizona goes, let's talk about units 33. You know what, let's go 31 and down. So have you hunted 31, 32 much for mule deer?
not much, no. I'm not a big mule deer hunter. Most of the mule deer hunting I've done is in the units we've already talked about. 34s, 35s, 36s.
So what about in 33?
33, done some mule deer hunting in 33.
The numbers are down quite a bit in that unit.
Yes, they are.
And I think too, a lot of those bucks that come over in December, January on the north side come from 37B and those flats out there in 37A.
Yep.
So I think people go in there in the rut looking for these bucks, find them, apply for the hunt, come October and don't find those same deer because they don't live there.
No, they do not. Mule deer travel a lot. Coos deer hardly travel at all. Some say they live within a mile radius their whole life, depending on pressure and lions and stuff. But they say they live a mile radius from where they're born. Mule deer, on the other hand, I've seen mule deer travel, 10, 15, 20 miles searching for does, come the rut.
I've even heard they'll go upwards of 100 miles.
It wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Considering what they live in some of this desert country, I wouldn't be surprised at all just to find a doe.
Yep, no, that's it. Their nose hits the ground and they don't stop until they find what they're looking for. Mule deer travel a lot. So yeah, I mean, you get guys, especially with mule deer, I mean, coos deer is not the same, but mule deer, you get guys that are out there in January, December with their bow, hunting them in the rut. And they're just like, oh my God, there's big bucks absolutely everywhere. I got to apply here for rifle, whether it's October, November, December, whatever rifle hunt they're putting in for. And come that time, you know, they get out there and all they're finding is does. You know, maybe a young buck here or there. That's because them big bucks they were seeing in January, they traveled from somewhere else. I mean, some will stay, but...
And you can dig some up, but...
Oh, yeah. No, they're
going to be out in those far flats and those arroyos and washes where nothing's going to mess with them.
Yep.
They might not even see another deer for months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the mule deer are definitely travelers, but... Yeah, as far as all the southern units go with mule deer, I mean, numbers are way down. You can see it with the archery quota that Game and Fish has brought in the last couple of years, the archery quota. You can see it by the numbers that the mule deer herd's hurting down here pretty bad.
In 34A, there is no mule deer hunt in 34 anymore. And my family started hunting Arizona when they came from Michigan in 34A in the 70s. And they said those were the highest numbers of mule deer that they had ever seen. They even compared it to the Kaibab. And now if you see a mule deer in 34A, it seems like you did something. We found a buck that was about 160 inches off 83 on my fiance's javelina hunt this year. And I was in shock. And he had one doe.
Yep.
One doe. That's all he was pushing. And I know there's more. I've seen them in there. I helped a kid harvest a 170 buck on the youth hunt years ago. But that's not the norm for that unit. And especially anymore. It's all coos deer only or whitetail only.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of factors, especially with that unit. I mean, the housing is expanding in that unit.
Same with 35AB. Those units held some great bucks that come out of Mexico in the San Rafael.
Yep.
And then between Sonoyta and Parker Canyon, there was some fantastic mule deer hunting. But that new ranch, it's an old ranch, but it was bought out recently.
Baba Kamari,
they're not allowing any access whatsoever for deer hunters or even antelope hunters, I've been told. So that's going to block off a huge portion of the unit. Granted, that could be a good growing ground for those deer to escape any kind of pressure and just turn into monsters out there. But, you know, there's so many houses now, as you know, that it's almost impractical to hunt that unit anymore for mule deer.
Yeah, the houses are definitely playing a part in it, in my opinion.
So going back to mule deer, in southern Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how the numbers are low. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's statewide as far as southern Arizona. I mean, the numbers are down quite a bit. I mean, we can travel back to the 35s, 36s, and 34s. I mean, I can remember fishing as a kid and hunting as a kid. And oh man, there'd be bucks everywhere. I mean, the doe numbers were through the roof. I mean, it was nothing to see, you know, 10 herds of 20 plus does. Seeing good bucks and a lot of bucks. I mean, we used to chase bucks in January. Just it was, you know, you blew a stock, it was no big deal.
You just got back.
Yeah, you got back behind the binos and found that buck that you'd seen earlier in the morning, you know. And it's just, there was bucks everywhere. And now, I mean, to go on 1 or 2 stalks, I mean, that's doing something. I mean, there's still a good age class when the rut comes around. You know, you can still find good bucks, but nowhere near as many. You know, and you don't see, I mean, I know I don't see nowhere near as many young bucks.
Yeah, I've noticed that this year too. I hunted the youth hunt 36A and we were hard pressed. We ended up killing a little spike mule deer buck, but we never saw a single mule deer buck that was bigger than a forkhorn the entire hunt.
I mean, the mule deer, they're hurting bad. And I mean, I think a big part of it, which Game and Fish is working on with the quotas, too many of them are killed. I mean, that's a huge part, especially in the archery hunts. I mean, you could drive roads in any of the units down here that we're talking about. You can drive roads and shoot a young buck right off the side of the road in almost every unit, fairly easy. So I think that plays a big part in it as well. But yeah, I mean, the rifle hunts, oh man, I mean, if you see far to try to get them young bucks past a spike or a forked horn. Young buck.
A lot of people that.
But
So we
no,
can't.
January, open at the next, and then shut down this, and then open at the next, and then shut Oh,
right
man.
there is a good one.
The deer will find the water.
And another one I hear is predation. However, being a or claim, they say that a lion will kill a deer a week.
Yep.
And I believe that does happen in some cases, but the majority of our deer in southern Arizona, I don't believe fall victim to that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
central Arizona a little bit more, where game's a little more sparse. Maybe a little bit more happens on the Kaibab because that's about all there is up there for them to eat is deer.
Yeah.
But down here they have such a variety. And, you know, why would a mountain lion want to take on a 150, 200-pound mule deer when it can eat a 15-pound Gould's turkey or
even the cattle,
5-pound skunk?
90% of our land down here is leased to ranchers.
Yep.
And they're running cattle. I mean, you got a lot of, young calves and stuff that, come victims to lions. Much easier kill than chasing down a deer, So I think they kill a lot of cattle too, but yeah, I don't personally think predators are, they're definitely killing mule deer, killing coos deer, no doubt. But I don't think that's the predators, we've had predators since day one. And our mule deer herd used to be amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say there's more predator hunters now than there ever has been.
100%.
We don't have the predator competitions anymore, but there's some hammer houndsmen down in southern Arizona, such as Mike and Lane, that they might be better, for accounting the lion numbers than I am. But, those guys, they definitely help with keeping the predators down there.
Oh yeah, they kill a ton of lions every year. I think we're doing it to ourselves. I think we're killing way too many mule deer, killing way too many young mule deer. I think we're ruining our mule deer population ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's rough. I've been on a handful of mule deer hunts in the last few years, and it's brutal. It's tough. January archery season is tough in itself, but you jump on a general tag, something chasing something. You jump on a general tag, and you find a mule deer and you get all excited.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, there's a deer. But no, it's not the same.
So are you going to be guiding any sheep hunts this year, possibly? If a hunter calls you, will you take on a sheep hunter?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're in sheep country all the time, especially 37A. That's our backyard. So, we're out there looking at sheep all the time. And if somebody calls me with a sheep hunt for 37A, we'll take other units as well. I strive to learn units the best I possibly can. I won't take a hunt if I, don't feel like I can kill something in that unit that's worthy. If I've never stepped foot in the unit you drew the tag in, I'm not going to take your hunt.
Right.
To me, from the time you call me till the time your hunt starts, I won't have enough time to learn it like I need to. I don't think there's any fish in here.
Well, the fishing's been a little tough today. Just a little bit. Do you have any plans to guide any bear hunters this year?
I think we're gonna focus on the pack this year a little bit and get them tuned up before we book a bear hunter. I think in 2025 we'll start booking some bear hunters. I think by then the pack's gonna be pretty dialed in, so I think 2025 we're gonna open up the hunting bears behind the dogs with Twisted. So we got a few few things to tweak in the pack, and then it'll be full bore.
Well, you had a really good year last year.
Yeah, dogs did really good. If we can have another year like last year, we'll be right on track. So,
Hell, we went and caught 4 in one day
yeah,
in a unit that's not known for tons of bears.
yeah,
That was phenomenal. And we killed that hunt too. We killed the next day.
Yep, killed the next day, caught another one next day, and got it killed. But yeah, the dogs are doing really good. I just want to make sure they're on their complete A game before taking any hunters. So,
Well, how can people reach out to you to contact you and get a hunt book through you?
yeah, we're all over social media, Facebook, Instagram. You can call me. My number's there on social media as well as a email. But yeah, social media is your best bet. And then yeah, just give us a shout. Let us know what you're wanting to do. And you know, I prefer, if you want to book a hunt, reach out before putting in, so we can get you put in for the right units and the right hunts to you know, aim for the highest success on your hunt. But yeah, just reach out to us and we'll get everything planned out.
Well, great. That's Twisted Oak Guide Service, correct?
Yes, sir.
Twisted Oak Guide Service. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Join us next week.
Yep.
We're gonna have another episode for you talking about bears.
Yep. Hopefully we catch some fish on that one.
Yeah, hopefully we can catch a fish on this one.